Welcome back. This is rolling coverage, and one of the biggest points made by the Prime Minister in his Red Fort address today was about the dangers of dynasty, parivarvad, nepotism, and how it has just killed merit in not just politics, but it has crept into every aspect of our society. He spoke about recent sporting accomplishments, and he said that this is all happening because, to a great extent, happening because talent has been allowed to emerge. Here's a small excerpt of that, and then we are continuing this conversation with Mahesh Jethmalani, who will be with me live.
दुर्भाग्य से राजनीतिक क्षेत्र की उस बुराई ने हिंदुस्तान की हर संस्थाओं में परिवारवाद को पोषित कर दिया है। परिवारवाद हमारी अनेक संस्थाओं को अपने में लपेटे हुए है और उसके कारण मेरे देश की टैलेंट को नुकसान होता है, मेरे देश के सामर्थ्य को नुकसान होता है। जिनके पास अवसर की संभावनाएं हैं वो परिवारवाद, भाई भतीजे के बाद बाहर रह जाता है।
And with me in the studio is Mahesh Jethmalani, Senior Advocate in the Supreme Court of India and Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament. Thank you very much, Mr. Jethmalani. You heard the whole speech. I was enthralled. I was watching it from the beginning, and I felt it was different from the previous ones because he wasn't really talking about one campaign. He wasn't delivering his record. There was a different tone and tonality to today's speech. Did you also feel the same?
Yes, I certainly did. I felt that this was a Prime Minister who felt completely relaxed and comfortable. He felt that, you know, he had done most of his welfare work. Of course, there's a lot to be done. And he now really wanted to attack. I mean, what I saw was that he really wanted to go after what he felt were the main ills facing this country, which he said, or at least implied, that he was going to pull out from the roots.
And he spoke clearly about corruption.
Oh,
yes. At a time when, you know, political parties have been trying to politicize the whole issue on corruption, he actually said, I'm going to go to the people and I need your support because we said we are at a critical stage in the fight against corruption. What was he indicating?
Well, I think the critical stage is that having filed all these cases, unearthed the scams, had them investigated, the cases have now been brought to charge sheet stage, assets have been attached and sold towards liabilities. So I think the critical stage really is the trials are going to begin and the voices of those who are accused are going to get louder. They're going to divert from the issue of their guilt. Right? They're going to say this is political. Right? He wants the people to be wary of the various stratagems which the accused people in this country, all powerful, are going to resort to. They're going to try and derail their trials. And he's called on the country to be wary of this and to support his drive against corruption, because so far, very few of the really, really powerful people who have been behind most of the scams and continue to do this from the, to take an example from Bofors, who continue to do this, have got away, and therefore, having got away, they mock the law and repeat their offenses.
So because, you know, there have been, you're a lawyer, because there haven't been complete prosecutions or detailed prosecutions leading on to convictions, there has been a sense that in the last 7 years, 8 years almost now, there's been a growing complacency about corruption, and there's almost been a feeling among several people and political parties, particularly the Congress and not others as well, that these matters will not come to fruition. Today's speech and the way in which he spoke about fighting corruption, getting people involved in fighting corruption, would perhaps shake that complacency?
Yes, because I think the Prime Minister is now hell-bent that there's no point just talking about corruption unless you send some of the biggest offenders to jail and send them fast. Their crimes are old.
Very old.
Some of them date back to 2008 and 2009.
Yeah, further back also.
Yeah, or even further back. So, you know, the Prime Minister now seems to be intent that, listen, we can't have empty talk about corruption. To prove it, right? Now, prima facie, you have a case, charge sheets have been filed. But we have to now sound the death knell of those people who are claiming to be falsely implicated. And that is convict them.
And he said Mahima Mandan, he said jo log jail ja chuke hain, and later he said also jo log jail jane wale hain. You know, he said that inka Mahima Mandan ho raha hai. They are being praised to the skies and they are being defended. He was challenging the ethics of doing that.
Of course, I mean, look, you have the only forum where your guilt or innocence can be proved is in a court of law.
Yeah.
It is perhaps because the evidence is so strong against all these powerful accused, collected by the various investigating agencies, they've had to resort to outside court tactics like violent demonstrations, protests about the innocence of their leaders. So that's what the Prime Minister has sought the support of this country, not to get deflected. The drive against corruption is well underway, and it needs to reach its final destination untrammeled.
You know, when I was watching that, I thought it's a very deliberate statement. Do you think the Prime Minister it wouldn't be just a mention, would it? I mean, when a Prime Minister makes a statement like this, and he makes it from the ramparts of the Red Fort, wouldn't every sentence, every word have been thought out by him in his mind? You know, the implications of it, especially when there are so many people waiting to see political overtones in the fight against corruption. He's obviously given it some thought to spend that couple of paragraphs on it.
Adam, I have no doubt that the Prime Minister has put a lot of thinking behind this present speech. It is his agenda for the for the remainder of this term. And I think that you will see that there will be a lot of fruition to what he's saying.
What does it mean in the run-up to 2024?
Well, the
The overall speech, not just the point on corruption, the overall speech.
Well, he's basically taken on the opposition, right? Because the opposition has chosen to take a path of confrontation on what, in most normal democracies, the case would be that the persons who are accused prima facie, and courts have vetted it prima facie, they would normally step down. In most democratic countries, they would be asked to step down from power.
True.
You remember the one big case which the BJP faced, was the Jain Hawala case.
Yes.
And Lal Kishan Advani, who was an accused in that person, said that until I am discharged or acquitted, I will not hold any office, party, or government. And he was true to his word. Till he was finally discharged in the Jain Hawala case, he didn't do it. That should be the stand of all these people.
But it won't.
It won't be. It won't be because, look, see, that's why it's so tied in with the second aspect which the Prime Minister was so firm and vehement about today. And that is dynasty. Most of these parties, and you know, it's almost ingrained into dynasties that you are going to be corrupt. Because dynasties don't thrive on mass basis to such an extent, right? They have a limited mass base. Either a caste one, or religious one, or a sectarian one in one sense or the other. They don't, I mean, most of them are regionally based. There are very few, except for the Congress, which is fast becoming non-existent, if not a region. I mean, it may be partly regional now, but it's becoming almost non-existent. But most of them have a narrow base. So to expand, they need to resort to looting the state coffers. They need the powers of patronage of the state. They need to keep their followers happy. And when they're out of power, you see, the maximum amount of defections takes place in those parties. You will rarely hear of a case where defections affect the BJP. The curse of this country, and it extends from Kanyakumari, from Kashmir, where the Abdullahs and Mehbooba are dynasts, to the east, where Abhishek Banerjee is the nominated successor, right? To the west, where you have the Pawars and the Thakres, right? And to the south, where you have, Jagan Reddy and others. So this is a national, most of the parties are dynastic. You look at it, there are very few. The CPM, yes, was an ideological party.
Aam Aadmi Party.
Aam Aadmi there are notable exceptions. TRS is a non-dynastic party. But by and large, and most of the ones rooted in corruption, most of them, are the dynastic parties. And it is part of the DNA. It is almost part of an inherent aspect of being a dynastic party that you are going to indulge in corruption. I mean, you just look at it empirically and you will find the statistics. Whether it's Mamta just now, of course, right now we've got, it's Partha Mukherjee, but,
Anubrata.
Yeah, it's over here, it is, Sanjay Raut, etc. But these are all close, trusted cronies of the top leaders. So it's only a matter of time before things get to the top leadership. So far as the Congress is concerned, the biggest dynastic party in this country, it is basically the first, what used to be the first family of this country, the Nehru, Gandhi, Vadra dynasty, right? And they're now caught directly. I mean, if there was any doubt about Sonia Gandhi's involvement with Kutrochi in the Bofors scam, if there was any doubt, right? In National Herald, there is no doubt.
Absolutely no doubt. They've been unable to pass on the blame to even one of their family retainers.
Yeah, they can't. I mean, they're trying. They put it on to Motilal Nehru. They put it on to, not Motilal Nehru, Motilal Vora, right? Who is, of course,
but there's nothing to prove a signature.
Yeah.
But
they've all put their signature. So they're saying Motilal Vora made us do all this. That's the kind of defense they're reduced to. Who will believe that?
Now on the 75th anniversary of our independence, all of this is happening. Does it concern you? You're both with the BJP and Rajya Sabha MP and a lawyer and a fairly independent voice, I must say. Does it concern you that we don't have a strong opposition? They say that the country cannot be great without a balance in its democracy. Does that concern you?
Yes, it certainly concerns me. It certainly concerns, because I think the essence of democracy is a powerful opposition, right? Who in power, outside power, puts the government on its toes, both in parliament and outside. We also need a free press, a completely free press, which by and large we do have in this country. We're a very vibrant press. So actually the press is really playing the role of the opposition. Of course, opposition members will say it's a pro-government or a bought-out press or what have you. But the fact of the matter is we have a very vibrant press. And if there is any country in the world where you have the right to freely abuse the Prime Minister, it is this country. I don't know what people are talking about, that, India is we're falling on the democratic scale, that we're not such a free country anymore, that people are insecure. All this is just anti-national propaganda, and forget the anti-national part. There is no substance to it at all. If tell me something, if the Muslim community was insecure in this country, to take one example of the many cliches that are being floated about, would you have an assassin go to Udaipur and kill a tailor in the most macabre fashion that was done? Are they insecure? Is that insecure?
No, absolutely not. Not that the person who carries out the attack represents anyone. But Mr. Jethmalani, this Har Ghar Tiranga campaign, I felt that one of the most amazing things about it is that there is no longer a discussion or a debate on nationalism. It should be taken as a given. I drove to office today and I saw that every single house had the tricolor. I think beyond the politics, there is a shift in the mood on the nation. Do you feel so? Do you think that today's campaign, the mood we saw in the country as we were going live from Leh to Port Blair to Jallianwala Bagh, and we are going to go to Atari, that people who crib about the economy, about nationalism, spin a narrative about communalism, do you think they will understand that there's a shift in the mood of the nation?
I mean, it's all too evident for everybody to see, Arnab. I mean, it's staring you in the face. You go to the streets of Mumbai. I was in Delhi a few days ago. Every house in my vicinity had one, if not two flags flying.
What about this argument that this is going to help the BJP?
Look, this is going to help the nation. It may incidentally help the people who started this campaign, which is the BJP, right? But I think the idea is to, in its 75th year, it is very, very necessary, right, to strike deep roots for the cause of nationalism. And I think this Har Ghar Tiranga and everything else that has accompanied it in this 75th year is vitally necessary. I think during 10 years of UPA rule, I really think, the real division came from the opposition. We were subjected to terrorist attacks, 26/11, didn't retaliate against, although the armed forces were ready to do it. I think all that made people feel supine. I think this huge nationalism thrust that has been taken forward by this government, and which has culminated today, the 75th year of independence, was an absolute necessity. We had to remind ourselves of India's strengths. We had to recall our nationalism, that we were and are capable of in future becoming one of the greatest nations of this world. I think this is a clarion call And I think it couldn't have come at a more appropriate time.
Yeah, and I think he spoke about Viksit Bharat. We keep talking about it. So Mr. Jethmalani, I think that what we are talking about is a change in the attitude where people are willing to embrace nationalism. And it's absolutely fantastic to speak to you today. What's your impression of where we will be at 2047 finally? What would be the singular greatest, if I were to say, what would be the one change between now and then that you envisage will happen? I've spoken about it to many people. I spoke earlier to Air Commodore Ravish Malhotra and Rakesh Sharma, Wing Commander Rakesh Sharma sometime back. Everybody shared that. What's yours?
Well, I think that the pathway has been set, right? Everybody wants India to be a superstar, a superpower, a nation which takes its place at the very pinnacle in the comity of nations. I think that we need to get just one aspect right. Welfare is doing well. The Prime Minister is a great welfare warrior. He's struck, welfare has gone down to the roots. There are direct cash transfers, there are no leakages. All that has happened. We need growth and we need employment. I think the last budget was an excellent budget. We've had a setback thanks to Ukraine, and with the looming shadows of Taiwan, external forces, price of oil has given us a temporary setback. But I think we are well on our path to becoming one of the most powerful nations in the world in 2047.
I think the Prime Minister said it, that we should not be dependent on any foreign imports, and spoke about everything within our country, including our economy. Great talking to you, Mr. Jethmalani, and I thank you very much, and I wish you once again a very, very happy Independence Day.
Thank you, and the same to you and to all your viewers, Arnab.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jethmalani.